can we fit 33's with some factory floorboard mods? You have to stick around to find out. Last time, if you remember, we were working on getting these 30 by 10 by 14 Outback Maxes on here. And you saw we run into a few issues that we had to put some spacers and stuff on it. But I'm going to take you around, give you a little tour so you know exactly what setup we got going on before we go any further. Okay, come on in here. Let's take a look at this thing. So what we've got here is a 2008 Outlander 800. It's not the newest, not the baddest bike, but for its time when it came out, it was a sweet machine, and it still is. I love this bike. Like I said before, it has been rode hard, put up wet, and it does not let me down, does not disappoint. It's the camo model. Some people may like that, may not. You know, I like the black and camo. You know, it's got a wild boar radiator relocate kit. Of course, it's snorkeled, sealed up tight. Now, other modifications that I've made more recently would be the 13 bolt belt box, and I've got new clutch setup. It's CVTech primary and a new secondary that I got off of eBay. It was a secondary that was for a 450, and then I put a new gearbox in it, and that was out of a 570, which is the lowest geared transmission you can get for these. So for running bigger tires, there's a easy gear reduction right there if you need to swap out your transmission. And then also, I put me some aluminum valve covers on there, if you can see that, because the plastic ones always warp and they leak. Every time you fire it up, you smell burning oil. Now for suspension, the only thing that's done to it is this 1.5-inch puck spacer. That's it on the front and on the back. So that's all the lift we have. And we've been trying to fit bigger tires on this thing. In a previous video, if you want to check it out, it's horrible. I don't recommend it. I tried to move these floorboards about 1/2 inch that way. And I thought I was doing some good, making some clearance here in the back, because you can see how it's rubbed holes in it because the tires are too big. But now I'm having clearance issues in the front. It wasn't a big deal with a narrow 31, but I put these 10-inch wide Outback Maxes on here, and I'm having clearance issues now in the front. So today, I'm going to work on, I'll probably move these floorboards back this way, back to the original spot, and then show you how to make some more modifications so we can fit an even bigger tire on it. Whew, back with the Crocs and the shorts. It's warmed up a little bit, a lot more comfortable. So, first thing I did is I looked at the bike for a real long time, and I thought, until my head hurt. And then I came up with an idea. Then I got me some poster board, some rulers, square, you know, use a straight edge and measure, razor blade. I came up with this little template right here. Now, the beauty of this poster board is it's soft and flexible. So I pretty much just measured a square, cut out a square piece of poster board that would cover all this, and then I just slapped it on here and kind of pushed it in to conform it to this area right here. And then I could just make marks where all the bends and things like that needed to be. And the idea behind this, to gain our extra clearance, we're going to basically eliminate this part of the floorboard right here. We're going to make a piece that'll go over this, cut this out, and allow all this to come up to here. So we'll gain about, I don't know, 1.5 to 2 inches on the back of our footwell. So that's the idea, the whole premise of it. Step number 2, I had some of this stainless steel scrap laying around that I could take this template, put it on here, and I could trace it out on this. Now, this is probably like, I don't know, 20 gauge sheet metal. So it's not super stiff. You can still, it has a little bit of bend to it. And now if you were building an entire floorboard out of metal, you would need a much thicker gauge. But the way we're going to do it, this 20 gauge should work just fine for what we need. And I had it laying around, so it's a perfect thing to experiment with. Now that I've decided on a shape with my template, cut it out on some sheet metal, the next step is I got to bend it up. So I do have this cheap little 30-inch metal brake. I think a million different people sell them. It's a little no name brand metal brake, and they're really crappy. But I've made some modifications to this one, putting some angle iron on it and a way to clamp it down real easy. So it's a little bit easier to work with. But the only bend that I made with this brake was this bend right here. Put it in here, and break it over. Well, you don't even have, you don't have to have one of these to do this, because these other bends, we got one here, and then we got one here that doesn't even go all the way down. I just took the sheet metal and I put it in my vise right there, like on my line that I drew. After I drew my line where I knew I wanted it to bend, I just clamped it in my vise and then just kind of tapped it and broke it over with a hammer and kind of bending it to where I wanted. So any kind of device that you can kind of clamp it and hit it with a hammer, you can get the same results. So no big deal, not really any special tools required. Now you can see I traced out my poster board pattern onto my sheet metal, and I cut it out and I've bent it up to make it fit right here. And it seems to be fitting pretty good. Would you look at that? It's what I like to call progress. Now I got it all bent up, and I got it mocked up in here, and I got it held on with these vice grips right here. And the plan is going to be to rivet it on all around the edges here. Down here on the bottom, around the edge, and maybe a few in here. And let me give you a side view here so you can see what we got going on. See, now, instead of this floorboard dipping back in the middle, it's coming straight down. That's how we're gaining our clearance right there. You can see here in the back how it kind of sticks back where it's been rubbed on by the tire and wore through. That's going to be eliminated. So we're going to gain us about, I think, probably 2 inches. Now I've got this side done. It went fairly good. I think it looks good. It's going to work. And I think I'm going to shut it down for today and come back tomorrow, and I'll get the other one traced out, cut out, and bent up. It's going to be slightly different, but I can still use the same pattern. All right, let's get back to it. Get the second one bent up. A little cutting, a little tapping, and we've got the second one made up and fitting on here good. So let's move on to that next step where take these floorboards off, and that way we can start drilling some holes and figuring out how we're gonna rivet these new floorboard panels for this floorboard. Whew. Well, got them floorboards off, and I took the belt box cover off because I never swapped out my belt. I got this new Super 8 TV belt. Extreme badass. I'm going to try it out. I've never used one of these before. I'm going to put this on here. You can get a look. Here, bring it in here. You get a look at these clutches that I got on here now. Let me see. You can see that's the CV Tech primary. And there's that cheap secondary I bought off of eBay. Now, the sheaves and shivs, or whatever you want to call them, they look pretty good. The spring that went on the back, I don't know how it's going to hold up. But it has a helix that I guess keeps it from upshifting very quick, so it's better for bigger tires in the mud, is what they say. So, I mean, I guess I need to get this, watch my finger. Guess I need to get this belt put on here real quick. New belt time. And if you're wondering what a bad belt looks like, this is what it looks like here. It's all glazed over, and this is fixing to like come apart. So we're taking it off just in time. And my new belt, this G-Boost, made in Japan, Bando. Looks like a good enough belt, so we're going to try it out, put it on here. And if you never changed one of these before, all you got to do is either have the right threaded bolt or this little tool you can order to screw into the secondary and take the pressure off, and then you can just slip this belt right over it. No problems. It's super easy. So, got that done. Moving on. All right, back on task. I'm going to start cutting out these footwells here. Now, there's a number of tools you can use to do this. You can use a oscillating tool like this, a sawzall. You can use a little Dremel wheel, although that'll get hot and melt it and make a mess, and it's not fun. I'm going to use this little air saw. And I thought I had one of these, but I couldn't find it. So maybe I lost it, or maybe I never had one. Not real sure. So I went and picked up another one. So this is what I'm going to use to do it, because I think this is going to give me the nicest product, even though you're not going to see any of this. But there are some lines I'm going to cut on here that I would like to be precise. So we're fixing to cut on this. It's going to be the point of no return, and we're going to hope it comes out all right. Yeah, cutting fenders, cutting fenders. Now it's completely destroyed. Hopefully this works out, because there's no coming back from this. But you can see I've got it cut, relieved in here, and I stopped shy up here, so this part is still, the part that was sticking back is still on here, because now I can put this plate on here, line it up where it's going to go, and I can actually rivet that back part to this plate, which is going to give it the structure to keep everything nice and solid here. If we just cut all this out, then I don't think it'd be solid enough. So that's the plan there. And we're going to get our clearance, but we're still going to keep some of our structure here. Well, it's riveted on there. And boy, it is ugly. But that's okay, because I got a solution for that. Some of this right here. We're going to put some of that on there. It's going to make it look a lot better. But I believe we've got our clearance that we need now. So I'm going to pretty this up a little bit. And then we're going to have some 33's, bolt them up, see if they fit. Well, you can see I bolted up the 33's. And they're on there, kind of. I mean, they're fitting. There's no clearance issue in the rear. But we're still having a little clearance issue in the front. See, it's hitting this. I could probably trim this and probably reduce that spacer, but when you get to almost full lock, it's hitting in here. I'll bring you in here and show you. Now, take a look at those floorboards. They came out nice. Tell me it didn't come from the factory like that. And check this out. Let me show you the size difference here. We went from let me see if I can get in here good for you so you can see. We went from these 30 inches to these 33-inch tires. Let me get down here so you can see. There is a massive size difference in these tires. And they almost fit. The back, we're close, but we can trim a little bit right here, and it'll be fine. The front, as you can see, when we were turning in, it was hitting there. Trim that would be fine. But down there, when you're at about full lock in the inside, it's hitting a little bit more than I'd like. And these are some large tires. If you downsize to maybe a 32, these are 33 9516 BKTs with big, huge lugs on them. I mean, they look good. Look real good on the bike. But if you stepped down some 32s, I think that this setup right here would work. Do I have any 32s to put on it? No, I don't. I wish I did so I could test it out. But I think in order to fit these 33s here, the way it is, we'd either have to do a little cutting on this front floorboard and kind of do what we did on the back, or we'd have to get a little more lift out of this front end, which this bike essentially has no lift on it. These are old wore out shocks with the puck spacer on it. So that being said, you might be able to get some new shocks on it, get a little more lift out of the front, and it could be fine. So I guess we're going to have to continue making some more mods of this thing. We'll see what we can cook up. So y'all stay tuned in, and we'll catch y'all next time.